Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the episode 3 of the Down the Lane podcast. I'm Barry Carpenter. I'm joined today by Rob Quinn.
Hello.
By Cherry Quinn.
Hi.
And by our selfie king,
Hi.
Garner. So, straight into the league table. It's where we're all at the moment. There it is on the screen. Guys, what do you think? Where are we? Where are we looking? What are we looking at?
I think we have to look up. Don't have to worry about anything below us. Has to be our point of view. Which is just look at winning our games. Truro still think they're the ones to worry about.
I still think it's worth it.
And you think Truro as well, the ones to worry about?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm with you, Rob. I think if we win our 3 games, we're going to end up on 90 points. That means Truro need to get 7, and we can't better their goal difference, obviously. We're 6 behind them at the moment. But if they draw 1 and we win 3, then we must at least be +1 on that. Just interesting times. Cherry?
I still think Worthing have got a fair shot of winning.
Okay,
But
so
I think we could do it.
I think this, I mean, we all know this weekend is obviously
Massive week.
massive weekend for everybody. And we're going to look at the fixtures in a minute. So, starting off, obviously, Truro are top, and their fixtures, if we move on to the fixtures, which you will see now, Friday's fixtures. So, this is involving the teams that are currently in the top 7. I haven't put Maidstone in there, but obviously Maidstone can squeak in over the weekend if they get results and other teams drop points. There's 2 standout games there, and I'm sure whoever compiled the fixtures at the start of the season never expected that on Good Friday, which is going to be good for 2 teams and bad for 2, you were going to have first playing 4th in Truro against Torquay, and 3rd playing 2nd in us against Worthing. I think your other teams, your Western Supermares, Dawkins and Boreham Woods, are going to be looking, thinking at least 2 of them teams, if not all 4, if they were draws, are going to drop points. So it gives them a chance to come back into the reckoning, to close it up a little bit more. And I'm sure that fans of all of them 7 clubs are as nervous as me. It's
excited nerves.
Very excited, very excited. And we will know, obviously, at the end of the weekend. But go on, Rob. I'm going to start with you. Where's your fixture? You know, where's your thoughts on them fixtures?
Well, looking at the first one is obviously us, Worthing. It's not going to be a popular view, but I think this is going to be potentially our first home loss in a long time. I think they're going to come going for it. We've got to go for it. In doing so, I think we're going to give them opportunities.
Maybe.
Mark?
Maybe. On the other way, I think Borough will do it. I think they're up for this.
I hope we do it.
They're up for this. And they've been so solid. You know, I know we had a blip at Dorking, but yeah, I think they're ready for this. I reckon we can do this.
Cherry.
I'm not gonna do a prediction of score.
No.
I never do that.
No.
I never do that. I never do that. But I think we can do this. 100%.
It gives me butterflies just thinking about it. But I hope we can do it. But Worthing's probably the game I've been most nervous about.
So I'm going to say that when we went to Worthing on New Year's Day, we drew 0-0.
Yeah.
I didn't see them as a threat.
I mean, they're not scoring many goals, are they? That's one.
Well, they scored 4 at the weekend,
Yeah,
but the problem is at the moment for me with Worthing is they're very hit and miss, and they're coming into this game knowing that we're unbeaten at home, you know, and the mind plays funny tricks. They're coming into this knowing that we're unbeaten at home, haven't been beaten all season. they've just lost 3 of the last 5, and they've lost against teams they shouldn't have lost against. I think, I mean, the thing I've been saying in the last few weeks is, does anybody want to win this league? Because it every time anyone gets there, and it's theirs to, you know, but there's some massive fixtures there. Can Torquay do us a favour and beat Truro?
No.
Or take points off of Truro?
I don't think so.
I haven't know down the end, but I think Torquay are very strong.
I think probably a draw. I reckon that one.
But if that's a draw, then that puts us on level points with Truro.
Both drop points then, haven't they?
I know.
If we win.
Yeah.
So obviously everything
with
was.
Truro have still got to play Monday, haven't they?
They have, and
so
we're going to.
They could lose that one or draw another one.
Well, we're going to move on to.
We're
going to move on to Monday. So I think, for me, Western Supermare will beat Chippenham.
Yeah.
I think Dorking beat Hampton.
And Boreham Wood, they should beat Slough, but again, they've been
indifferent.
They're very indifferent.
Yeah.
So then we move on to Monday's fixtures. And again, you look down there, there's one standout game, I think, or 2 standout games.
Yeah.
Worthing against Dorking.
Yeah.
And Western Supermare against Truro. Now, Western Supermare, we know we've got to face Western Supermare.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, Western Supermare's last 3 games are Chippenham away, Truro at home, and then us away. You would expect that they're thinking they're not going to get a lot out of us here. Every team will be looking at Eastbourne thinking they're unbeaten this season.
Yeah.
You know, every other team has gone there, and we've drawn some silly games. We drew against Salisbury at home, 0-0. Their keeper played a blind.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what I said to him, he wasn't letting one in. But
What's
I knew the rivalry. It was a cricket
player.
family.
Hempstead was it? Where it was 3-all.
Yeah.
That was.
But Salisbury, we drew 0-0. We was all over them that game. We need to go down there and win. But I think we're a different animal now. And, and the one thing that gives me a little bit of confidence is the way that Adam had us at the end of last season. You know, we were firing on all cylinders. We beat that relegation drop. You know, it was the escape of the century, people were calling it, you know, the great escape. And we done it. And I just think that Adam, for me, times it right. And when I look at some of the other managers, I've looked at Aggie at Worthing and whatever else. And when some of these managers, they have their press conferences after. I mean, I refer back to the one that Aggie had after they got beat at Hornchurch game I went to. And he looked a broken man. And I've never seen that with Adam. Even after a disappointing game or whatever, he'll give it honest, and he'll say, we weren't at the races today, you know, we were poor, I've told the players this, I've told the players that, but I've never seen him broken. That bit might get cut out. But I've never seen him broken. I see Adam, and I think he knows what he's doing. I think he, you know, I mean, listen, the amount of times he says in his interview, it's just another game of football. That's all it is to him, and it is. You know, no one's going to die if we don't win. You know. It is another game of football. Obviously, every single one of them 7 teams wants to finish first or second or third and get that, you know, straight through to the final. Guys, go on.
Well, in touching on Adam, never too high, never too low. You know, the result is the result on that day. Forget it now, move on.
Let me go again.
You won by a mile. Great. Well, that's in the past now. Forget it. The next game's the next important one. I think that's the best approach that we can take. At times, I think this is what's happened at the top of the table is teams have run away with themselves.
Yeah.
Getting up to the top there is in effect is the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do is to stay there.
I struggled. Worthing didn't, did they? I mean, Worthing, what, they 7 points or something at one point? I think they were at the top.
5 clear with the game in hand.
Dropping away. Which gives me the confidence that we could do something on Friday.
I mean, it reminds me of there are teams that are good chasers, but they're not good leaders. You know.
I mean, obviously the team last year is a lot different to what it was, what we got now.
Yeah,
totally different.
Same manager, same mentality.
Exactly, yeah, totally agree. I mean, Adam's exactly right. Is it obviously playing relegation football, if you like, it's got to be different to being promotion football.
Yeah.
And I think we've just grown and grown as the season's gone on. We've been solid. I think we've been solid all season. We've had a couple of blips, but that's football.
I think we have. I think that Adam's got a good team around him now. You know, he's got Greeny, his mate, and obviously if you haven't seen the interview with Chris from earlier, Chris Day, the women's manager, so we're actually here tonight at the club. The women have got a game against Watford under 23s in the Combined Counties Cup semi-final, so we're here for that. So we're gonna do this part, which is about the men, and then we're gonna go outside and we're gonna film a bit of tonight's game with the ladies. I interviewed Chris earlier. If you haven't seen it, go back and have a look. It's on the YouTube page. But Chris has come into the men's side now, and Adam's drawn him in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks.
Which I have to say, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it looked good. It looks good.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a very experienced coach, very experienced coach. It just makes me think that
it can be a good thing.
I think so.
Sure. Yeah.
So obviously, now let's go back to the league table.
Yeah.
Look at them fixtures. Look at the fixtures from Friday. And back to the league table.
Yeah.
Who is going to be top of the league Monday night? That is the only prediction that I'm going to make every one of us make.
Truro, Borough, Worthing. Best I'm not worried about.
I probably agree with Mark actually.
Yeah.
I really want to say us.
Well, it's not because
I really want to say us, but as I say, the problem I've got is I've just got this gut wrenching feeling that Friday is going to be the pop of the balloon for us. You know,
For home.
Great run at home. It's local derby, top of the table. They bring a lot of support. We've got to be loud. Our fans have got to be loud as well.
It's going to be loud, isn't it? It's not going to be a small
obviously,
crowd.
Sell out 3,622.
Which I've never. I've been coming here about 4 years, but I've never seen anything.
I've seen one game here when we played Oxford in the cup. There was 3,700 here.
Yeah.
But it was a different layout then. Not different layouts on the ground, but it was slightly different, and obviously capacity was a little bit higher. Yeah, it's going to be loud. It's going to be good. And I just don't know. I just don't know.
What's your prediction there? Ask that.
For what? For the league table for Monday?
Monday, after Friday, about 5 o'clock.
So I think Truro will be top, but I think it'll be on goal difference. I think I think 87 points will be top. I think we'll be on 87. I think we will beat Worthing, and I think we'll beat Salisbury. Truro, I think, will draw against Torquay, but I think they'll beat Western Super, which, I mean, I hope that I'm wrong, and obviously, so will all the Western Supermare fans that have just sneaked into that playoff place. I mean, it doesn't mean that Maidstone can't come back in it, and one of Dorking or Boreham Wood can't drop out. I just think that Worthing, I think we will beat Worthing, and I personally think that Dorking will beat Worthing. I can actually see Worthing on 83 points still on Monday night, and I, that's hard to say, but Mark White gets them going at the right time, and he plays he plays a different game against top of the table side. I know we was quite flat when we went up there.
Yeah.
And
But
they weren't.
I have to say though, I think when the player gets sent off, it almost disrupts us a bit. I think Adam mentioned that the other day, because we had St Albans, I think, had a player sent off.
Yeah.
And we should have gone there and probably should have killed them off easy, but we didn't. And it's almost like a 10-men thing. I don't know whether they work harder or whether we just a little bit more relaxed. I don't know what it is.
I think you naturally do.
You get it in all games, you know, in Premiership games, go down 10 men, and don't always win. You know, end up losing the game.
Well, look at us at Hornchurch away when we had
Isaac
sent off early, and Adesanya was worth 2 in himself on that day. We've said it before in the pod. For me, I think that was one of the performances of the season. Talking about players and player of the season, obviously we'll be voting on Friday for our player of the season.
I'm not telling you who it is.
No, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, but we will. Let's just say the players that we think are in the reckoning. So let's put 4 or 5 players in there. Who do we?
Well, George, obviously, that's a tap in. Well, if we were to say a player from each, well, we'd say each position, but your goalkeeper is going to be a bit of an obvious choice then, isn't it? But
yeah,
obviously George, he's got to be up there.
Jack Clark.
I'm going to say both Clarks.
Yeah.
Both Clarks, I think, have been good.
And Adigan.
Adigan,
yeah,
he's only been half a season, but the impact he's made.
Exactly,
is,
totally right.
Kai.
Oh, Kai, he's a silent. He's one of them silent ones that does his job, gets on with it.
Kai's played really well,
and he had great. I loved his school.
And someone else that's only been here for just over half a season, Ollie Kensdale. I mean, immense at times. But I think if it was I think if we were looking at the last few weeks, Clarkie's been immense. Jack Clark has been absolutely immense. He has ran. He does their midfield.
He does. He runs that midfield.
And I actually see that where we've just named them players, when we talk about Friday, you know, we've got them players that can control that midfield. And, you know, with Worthing, for me, and I've watched them, like I say, 3 times this season, if you keep 1 or 2 of their players quiet, they're not the same force. Yeah. And I don't see that with us. I see that we've got different, you know, I can't believe we've just talked about players. And we haven't mentioned players like Yaya. Or we haven't mentioned
Cam.
You know, Cam. You know, there's
basically
the whole team. The whole team.
Vote for everyone.
And of course today, drawn back, Dan Quick from Welling. He was here at training earlier. Looks like he's been on holiday because he's got one hell of a suntan. The sun must be shining in Welling.
Was he smiling though?
He was.
He's always smiling.
Yeah, he seemed happy to be back, and I was having a little chat with him earlier. But yeah, he was here, so we're drawing him back, so it gives us a bit more cover for that crunch time. So anyway, going back, I didn't finish where I think. I think Truro will be top. I think we'll be second. And I actually see Torquay as being third. And I think that them 3 teams will finish the season in the top 3 places. That I think Worthing are the ones to drop out. I can't see Dorking claiming enough points to overtake us by 2 or to overtake Torquay. I mean, when we're going to do another one of these next week, when obviously we know what teams will need to do on that last day of the season. But we've got Western-super-Mare, and you know that for whatever reason, you know, the lady got ill and the game got abandoned, and they didn't have any first aid down there, so it was the 2 physios that had to do the first aid while they were waiting for an ambulance. Which I think in our league isn't a rule, but you know, when you're talking about the level of football that is in our league now and in the north, you know, the money that's invested into these clubs, you know, I can't see why they shouldn't have to. I think any football club should have to have a doctor. You know,
I agree.
Really. but especially at our level.
Yeah.
You know, there should be doctors on site, a paramedic or something like that, you know. Even if it's St John's ambulance, you know, look, and I think Western were lucky. They played Tunbridge last night with a depleted squad because they couldn't obviously get down there, and they managed to win. They won 3-0. Yeah. I look at Western's fixtures, and I mean I hope they get a result against Truro. I don't think they're going to envisage liking coming here. And we'll know more next week when we do this, but if they're in a position where they're finishing in the 6th or 7th position anyway, and they're playing here on the Saturday, and they'll have a playoff game on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, are they really going to want their players sitting for 7 or 8 hours on a coach and playing a game of football? Yeah. 2 or 3 days before, 3 or 4 days before.
It all depends.
Depends where they are.
If they need them points, yes, they're coming here full school. You know, they're coming here full chat. But if they're sorted, it just makes you think. You know, but whatever happens, somebody needs to either write a book or make a film on this season, because it has been one hell of a ride. Not only for us, I know Truro fans. Worthing fans, you know, you've been on the ride, Dorking, Borehamwood, all these teams, Western-super-Mare, I mean, they was up the top of the league earlier. Then they dropped right down and they're creeping back into it. You know, they're not a bad side. No, they're not a bad side.
The surprising ones, Borehamwood, where they're finding themselves now. They could be fighting just to stay in the playoff picture. But where we haven't got Maidstone in this, we could be going to the last game of the season with 2 separate groups happening here. Those fighting out to win the league, and then Borehamwood, Western, Maidstone fighting just to be in the playoffs. And at that point, everyone's going to be, we always say concentrate on your own match, but it could get to a point where teams are playing each other and thinking, we don't want to score, you don't want to score. Just be nice to each other.
Help each other out.
But it's the pressure that's on these players. It's the pressure that's on them.
But I think, I think that's where Adam comes into it, though. He seems to be able to keep them.
I'm talking about on all these clubs. You know, the pressure that's on the players from all these clubs. You know, you look at, like you said, Borehamwood. Borehamwood players must be really struggling, because when they made them couple of signings in January, they were top of the league. They were looking good, and there was, I mean, there was many people here said, that's it, they've won the league now. They're the team that's going to run off.
Was it not them that were the favourites to start the season? Was it Bournemouth that I think someone else?
I think it was Bournemouth.
I can't
remember. Barry was saying about someone was going to go probably straight up. I thought it was Bournemouth, but
I know we was 20-1.
Was it? Oh dear.
So yes, that'd be very nice. Yeah, we were 20s. We were 20s at the start of the season, and I think actually somewhere I've got the list of odds. But there we go. So little short one today, just to. We don't know what we're saying really. We're excited. We're nervous. The same as all you fans out there. And I wish you all the best. Unless you play for Worthing, unless you're a supporter of Worthing on Friday, and Salisbury on Monday. But everyone else, just good luck. And Truro, if you could just drop a couple of points, it would be nice. See you soon.
Cheers.